Yeah. The most important thing is the bathroom is outside and to the left, to the right, sorry. Yeah, to the right, yes, yeah.
In the hallway, to the
Yeah.
right. And there's water to the left.
Yes, and we have water to the left. I don't know which one comes first. Anyway, I really appreciate everyone coming this afternoon. We're here to celebrate really the life of my mother, who recently passed away at 103. I'm going to read you. Where do I find that, Richard? Oh, I'm gonna have to. Hey, Charlie. Can you hear? I'm okay with the microphone. A little louder. Yeah. Okay. Carol Elizabeth Begun Rubin, 103, died on January 2nd in Glen Cove, New York, where she had lived for nearly 68 years. She was the wife of Mort Rubin, who was born in 1919 and died in 2005. And she was the daughter of Rose, née Cronenberg, and Saul Begun. And she was the sister of Frank Begun, who was born in 1926 and died in 1991. She is survived by her children, Richard Mark Rubin of St. Louis and his partner, Linda Eastman, Musa, who was born Eric Rubin of Mauritius, and Emily Helen Rubin of Copake, New York. And her husband, Leslie Baum, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading this. Leslie Baum, Maggie Diamond of Sunnyvale, California, and her husband, Jamal. My son, William Billy Holmes of Oceanside, California. And the sisters, Isabel Labat Fitcher and Aurelie Dutman of Mauritius, who are my stepchildren. And the great-grandchildren, June Morton Diamond, Ophelie, Johan, and Manuel Dutman, who are the children of my beautiful stepdaughter, Aurelie. And many friends, former colleagues, and students of multiple generations. I just, I'll say something a little bit later, but I think that we're all here because Carol touched our lives in so many ways. And I just wanted to appreciate how that all of you have taken the time to come out this afternoon. And I hope you'll join us later at the house for a celebration as well. Richard? What I'm going to do now is, Maggie, can you see the screen? If everybody on the Zoom can hear me clearly, will you just raise your hand? And okay, I just want to be sure. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here and just play a short video of Mom describing her early childhood. So let me do share sound, share screen, and I think you can see that. All right, now I have to find it. Wait. Just a minute. Some reason I can't. This is in the way. Sorry, minor technical issue. There we go. Bear with me one moment. I have a cheat sheet here. Um, $45.
We're going to start with what you can remember. So what is some of the earliest things that you can remember? What are some of the earliest things? When you were little?
I remember we spent a summer in Keensburg, New Jersey, and I remember going into the ocean with my dad, and he threw me up into the air, and we dove into the waves, and I said, "Do it again, Daddy, do it again." I was about 3 years old then. And we spent several summers there. And in fact, there's a picture in the bedroom of Dad holding me, you know. There's also a picture in the bedroom when I was about 3. That was it seems I was climbing up that stump, and my father called me, Carol, and I turned around and he snapped my picture. And that was a summer also.
This was in New Jersey?
No, that was also a time that we were in Saugerties, New York, which is up in the Catskills. In fact, there's a drawing, a portrait of me, also in the bedroom, taken in Saugerties, New York, Richard, when I was pregnant with you. There was an artist there.
I'm gonna stop that, and I just want to, I have a set of photos of Mom throughout the years, but while I'm sharing the screen, I'll just show you the first one, and that's the photo that Mom was referring to of with her father, Selby gun at Keensburg, New York. So I do have a series of pictures here. I'm going to just show a few now because we've got a whole slideshow. We've got a whole program to get on. But there is Mom and Dad at their wedding in 1944. It was during the day because it was wartime, and Mom said she would wear a street dress, not a wedding dress. And there she is. That's with my sister just after she was born. I'm going to stop here and we'll proceed with someone who might want to come up and speak. Maggie, do you have?
Am I next? Am I on?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and then yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and adjust the camera so that people can see you. Oh, I have to stop sharing. Wait a minute. For the people on Zoom. Sorry. Okay.
All right, are we, but you get Zoom back.
Oh, get the Zoom back. Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
There you go. You're in
Okay.
position.
there I am, and I can. Oh, maybe not. Oh, I didn't need to do that. I just need to do this. You showed me how that worked. Sorry, camera things. Okay, somewhere. Hi. Hi. What do I have to say? Some people have wonderful nostalgia and memories of their grandmother's cooking. I do not. many of you may know that of all of Carol's millions and many talents, cooking was not one of them. And I just needed to have us share that moment and that love. I am still haunted by a turkey meatloaf that was served to me in 1987. There have been numerous other mishaps, a bottle of black ketchup over the years. But what my grandma, and of course, in tribute to my her brother, who died in 1991, who lovingly referred to 31 Relham Drive as the house of fake food, because she was interested in nutrition and anything that could be low sodium, low fat, low calories, low flavor. She was all for it. But she also did know how to bring in a great caterer when she needed to and throw out some really lovely affairs. But what my grandma, so my grandma and I have that in common. I am not a cook. But I do love a good caterer and a good restaurant to bring things in. But so we have that in common. And I like to think, the thing that she did have and that she really imparted to me was, what it means to be a citizen and what it means to be part of a community. And when I look out and I see everyone here, that's what she gave to me, of what it meant to be someone who was involved in her community as a volunteer, as a neighbor, as a friend, as a book club member, as the Friends of the Library president, and all of those things. That's what she gave to me, and what I hope to carry forward into my old age. And seeing you all of you here and coming to Glen Cove, where I've never lived but have been coming my whole life, and people that I've met and scenes, just this whole town and this community is very special to me. And I don't know when I'll be back here now that she's gone. And I really have a love for Glen Cove. And thank you all for being part of my life and my world. And then the other thing, as part of being community and part of being a citizen, is that my grandma instilled the values into her children and into me of paying attention to what's going on in the world and speaking up for what's right. And I know if she were here today, she would not be standing for any of the things that are going on right now. And if you are moved and inspired to do anything in this time to speak up for what is right and speak up for your neighbors and fellow citizens and community members, remember my grandma, and that she would do that, and she would fight against people who are trying to do us all harm. So again, we'll remind you several times that you are all invited back to the house afterwards for some food, which I did not make, and neither did my grandma, but we invite you all to join us and keep being part of that community, because she loved you very much. Thank you.
I think in line with what Maggie said, I think I can find a short video of my mother talking about being a citizen and paying attention about her experience during World War II. If I can find it quickly, I will share screen. If I can do this better than I did last time. And yeah, that's better. Okay. And it's in 3 at about 3:15. Okay, that's running.
They saw the handwriting on the wall. And I don't think we really were aware of how serious it was. And then
when the war started in Europe, you heard the reports of the bombings in London.
the bombings in London were somehow that really got to us, because somehow we had this close identity with England, and we had no choice
Now,
but to go into the. But then then there was Pearl Harbor.
okay. Now, today, when we hear the rebroadcast, they often play the news reports,
Right.
like the Edward R. Murrow reports from London.
London.
Did you hear any of that?
All of them. I mean, he was so great. We didn't miss any of his reports. We were glued, mainly to the radio, because I mean, there were people that had television, which was just really at the start. But we didn't miss any of his good night and good luck. That was how we would always end it. Admiral, good night and good luck.
Now, the radio at that time, it wasn't a small item, or was it a big piece
Oh,
of furniture?
we had a big piece of, we had a Zenith.
Mhm.
Beautiful big piece of furniture, similar to, that was our original, that cabinet there in the dining room or living room area. It was our Zenith. That was our radio.
But I remember there was a
Phonograph.
phonograph
Yeah.
inside it, in
And-
the top, and
And,
there was a radio.
right.
And
Nanny and Grandpa had one very similar to that.
okay.
What
Yeah.
year was that? You remember?
The recording was in 2010, and 2010. Okay, and in fact, I made a series of recordings. At that period, I made 6 video and audio recordings in 2010. There's another set in 2013, another in 2016. In fact, I might play a little one, and that'll be the only other one I'll play when we talk, when we get to talking about her relationship with Janine, who, Jermaine Demena, who is the preparer of the food that we have at the house, which we tasted last night. It's really good. I did want to show one other thing in that set of photographs that I had that I had up. I wanted to go on because well, here's a picture of Mom in 1961, and this is in 1974. My mom became a public school teacher. She started at Glenwood Landing and then went to Glenhead in the North Shore School District. And here's a picture of her teaching at the very beginning of her career in 1974. And we have with us one of her students. Dory, are you here? Yeah, why don't you? Come on up. And I'm going to stop sharing so that, yeah, come around. Oh, yeah, all right. There's a lot of cords there, but just a minute. I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah.
And there you are.
Okay, great. So Dory Agazarian. It's with deep gratitude and love that I remember Mrs. Rubin. She was my third grade teacher. And she was more than a teacher to me. It was a moment of deep uncertainty and transition in my life. And she brought structure, kindness, and clarity. When I entered Mrs. Rubin's classroom, I was a new kid in a new state, starting over at a new school. I felt out of place. And it was August 1986 when I first heard Mrs. Rubin's name. At the time, my home life was tumultuous in ways that were hard for me to understand, let alone articulate, and I kept my guard up. Some neighborhood kids warned me, somewhat gleefully, that Mrs. Rubin was the strictest teacher. And I walked into her classroom with a pit in my stomach. But I could never have anticipated what a positive impact she would have on my life. Yes, Mrs. Rubin was undeniably old school. We still did classwork on carbon paper, and her expectations for excellence were sky high. My family still laughs about the meltdown I had trying to keep pace with independent math workbooks. But beneath the structure and the high standards was a deep well of care and wisdom. She treated me with the respect and thoughtful guidance of a true mentor. Mrs. Rubin saw something in me, something I had not yet recognized in myself. She saw a dreamer and a writer, and she encouraged me to keep a creative writing notebook. And she took the time to read it after school, week after week, talking to me about it. She told me I had a gift for language. And when I wanted to retreat inward, something I often did at that age, she gently but firmly pushed me to rise to the challenge, to write, to speak, to imagine. She even made me promise to dedicate my first book to her, a promise I fully intend to keep if I ever manage to wrangle that dissertation into a manuscript. She believed in me before I believed in myself, and she gave me something that I've carried with me ever since, which is a sense of purpose and a sense that I had something meaningful to contribute. At the bottom of nearly every story or poem I handed in, she would scribble two simple words: keep writing. And I've tried to do just that, not only with words on a page, but by continuing to express myself, to reflect, to imagine, and to find meaning in the world around me. Now, as a mother, I watch my own third grade son begin to navigate his own big feelings about the world, a world full of adult-sized problems, endless questions, and stories still forming. As he seeks to understand his place in it, I hope that I can guide him with the same fierce intellect, loving honesty, and unwavering encouragement that Mrs. Rubin gave to me. Her voice is still in my head, urging me forward, challenging me to do better, and telling me that I can, telling me I must keep writing. Mrs. Rubin, your memory is a blessing, and I am honored to have been your student. And I thank you for truly seeing me at exactly the moment I needed it most. So rest well and know that your words live on.
I thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And I'm sure Mom has left a whole slew of old former students whose lives were shaped by her. Tell you one very critical incident that happened. My mom and dad were driving on Highland Road, and there's the stoplight with Walnut, and they had the green light and they were driving through, and all of a sudden, bam, somebody ran the light on Walnut Road and smashed into them. And of course, they were all rattled and upset. And meanwhile, there was a policeman who was waiting for the light to change on the other direction on Walnut Road. And so he saw the accident. He came up to see if my mom and dad were all right. He looked in the window and he said, "Mrs. Rubin." It was one of her students. And so he said, "Don't worry, I saw the whole thing." So, so she definitely left an impression on a lot of young people. I'm going to turn the microphone over to my sister, Emily. Is that okay, Em?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Hello,
great.
everybody. Hi. Here I am in West Copake, New York. I am so sorry not to be able to join everybody there, but I'm glad to be able to thank you for setting this up this way. I'm undergoing chemotherapy, so my immune system is in such the state that I need to isolate a bit. So I'm glad to be here with you to celebrate my mom. And thank you, Dory. Thank you, Maggie, and my brothers for putting all this together. So I want to celebrate my mother's independence and her fierce independence. And I started when she turned 100, which was now a little over 3 years ago. I started writing some stories that were based on our encounters. And I have a collection of them that someday maybe will be a book. Somebody suggested it be a performance. But I'm going to read an excerpt from one of them that I think shows her passions for her independence, but also her passions for, I'm going to say, snacks. She had many things that she loved to snack on. And to structure the stories, the way that I decided to do it, I started looking to things that were invented the year my mother was born. And I started it with one that Chanel No. 5, the perfume, was also born in 1921. And there's a whole list of things. The lie detector test is another one. Wonder Bread is another thing that was invented in 1921. It's like kind of surprising. But the one I'm going to share with you today is one that my mother had a great love for. And I'm going to show you the box. It's not getting anything. She loved Cheez-Its. Okay. There is still a box of Cheez-Its on top of the refrigerator, right? And I think maybe I asked my brothers if they would bring some there to share them, because it's still a really good snack. So, and so just to give you an idea of how I'm structuring this, I'm writing these because I really want to try to preserve my mom's voice. As you saw in the videos, she's very direct. She has had a great facility for memory. So as part of the stories, I go into a little bit of the history of these things, and I'm not going to include that here, but just, Cheez-Its were invented by a scientist and farmer named Austin Riddle, who was in Ohio. And on his family farm, there was this overproduction of cheese. And he was just trying to figure out what he could do with this extra cheese. And the Cheez-It was born out of that. And then it got taken up by different corporations, of course. And so in every one of the stories / essays, I also include quite a bit of verbatim conversation. Some of them are with us in person, but this one happens to be, was totally on the phone. Here we go. Hi, Mom. How are you? I'm not a doddering old woman. Having a caregiver 2 days a week has been an adjustment for my mother. Stories about a manicure and a trip to an IHOP have been on a loop for weeks. She tells me about it constantly. She's got to realize I'm not a doddering old woman. She's getting too familiar with my finances. I pay my tab and she pays hers. That's it. Next time she's here, I'm going to let her know. Yes, Mom, I know. I can tell you've got it all figured out. I must have been in a fog. Separate checks. I don't know what I was thinking. With that, it was time for me to change the subject. Mom, what's your favorite snack? Ooh, snacks. Not supposed to eat in between meals, keep my girlish figure, but there's one I can't resist. Really? What's that? The name escapes me. That happens these days, as if the word is playing hide and seek or snickering at me like the kids at school used to do. I had a glandular problem and I had a little problem there. But now I'm no fool. I've been around the block. I experienced my mother's aging brain as it wandered on a tight spiral backwards and forwards and back. It was like a treasure-filled vault of uncut gems, and she labeled everything really carefully from A to Z. My mother was actually very organized. Mom, try to describe the snack. I can tell you what my favorite snack is. No hints. Don't tell me yours. Mine is mine and yours is yours. Like the separate checks? Yes, exactly. Separate checks from now on. We went all the way to the South Shore to an IHOP. Why would we go there when we were so close to Ben's Delicatessen? What did you have, Mom? I had a hamburger. Oh, how was the hamburger? Very good. The waitress was very nice. A little plump, I thought, but oh, never mind. It's all a bunch of bunk. Maybe they're on top of the refrigerator. She continues, and her voice kind of coasts on a lyric of memory. Your grandfather, my father, used to say that those crackers reminded him of hardtack. I still can't remember the name right now. Hardtack from World War I. They were jaw-breaking crackers. And he'd say, when you're hungry and tired and the ship is rolling and rocking, it was everything better than sleep. I don't think my dad slept very much. He liked to drink Matus. He hated plutocrats. Mom, I think I know what snack you're talking about. I'm going to remember if it's the last thing I do. Oh, Mom, since you're 102, that's pretty funny. I'm not a doddering old lady. I went to Albany and waved a sign with retired teachers to fight to keep our health care. Those side-mouthed politicos must have seen their mothers in us, pointing our swollen knuckles in their faces. They need a good patch and took us. We didn't get everything we wanted, but we did keep our eyeglass and dental coverage. Don't mess with us. I know where they are. It's definitely on top of the refrigerator. Give me a minute. She moved with the phone, and I could hear the lull of voices of NPR filtered in from the always on crackling kitchen radio. I got it, but I need my glasses. They were usually on top of her head. I found them on my head. Cheez-Its. That's it. They sell them at the dollar store. I need another box. Next time she's here, I'm going to tell her a thing or two. You tell her. Em, how's your new puppy? Oh, she's fine, Mom. Thanks for asking. Lucinda is her name. Lucinda. That's a nice name. Well, that's enough for now. Bye-bye. Bye, Mom. Thank you, everybody. And there's a few more to go, but
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Em, so much. There's someone else on Zoom who has to speak. Let me see if you're there. Freda, if you unmute, are you able to speak? I mean, I have what you wrote, but if
There we go. I unmuted.
oh, that's terrific. And Freda, I'll let you introduce yourself more, but I know that you were principal of my mom's school at the time she retired in 1992. And and it was your job to write the annual evaluations of all the teachers. And I found this last fall, going through Mom's effects and posted it on Facebook. But Freda, as you're the author, I'm going to give you the floor and let you tell us what you wrote.
Okay. I was both colleague and principal of Carol's, and she was just as a little prefix, because I did not put this in my evaluation. Carol was one of the most incredibly dressed people,
Oh, yes.
but appropriately. I mean, not, flashy. She always looked amazing. And this is the evaluation that I wrote for her 33 years ago. Dear Carol, this is not just a reflection on this past school year, but on an outstanding career. Carol, I have always admired your sharp intellect. You are an extremely bright and worldly person. These are important qualities to bring to a classroom. It is this part of you that has resulted in your constantly learning new ways to approach things in the classroom. You have always kept abreast of changes in education, yet you would always carefully examine these innovations before introducing them to children. In recent years, your children benefited from writing process, a literature-based writing program, problem-solving in mathematics, hands-on science, and an interdisciplinary approach to social studies. The writing, and it's interesting because was it Dory Agazarian? There were three of them. I think it was Dory that spoke, talked about the writing. The writing your class produced this year was extraordinary. They wrote in many different genres and areas of the curriculum. The highlight was the recognition of their poetry received from the Walt Whitman Society. I am hoping you'll be able to come back and do a Walt Whitman unit with our fourth grades next year. I would like to think that our children will continue to benefit from your expertise. Part of your success in the area of writing is that you yourself are a talented writer. Modeling for children is the best teacher of all. Not only do you share your talent, but the joy you derive. You communicate to them that this is important and it is fulfilling. In the fall, you visited 2 out-of-district classrooms to observe a reading workshop program, which you then brought back to your own room. This is just one further example of your always searching for new ways to teach. What is remarkable, but entirely in keeping with your professionalism, is that in the new year you were planning to retire, you were still reaching out to find new strategies. In conjunction with this, you were a faithful member of Bagels and Pens, which is a writing group we had, always bringing books or children's writing to our meetings. You not only inspired your students, but your colleagues and friends as well. Carol, you are a wonder, full of energy and zest for living. You are always exploring new horizons, both in your personal and professional life as well. You are a role model for all of us. You have given so much of yourself in your years at North Shore. You have been active in the union and in professional organizations. You have attended conferences, workshops, and in-service courses. You can retire feeling fully satisfied that all times you gave the best you had to give. I wish you a wonderful retirement. May be rich in all things wonderful. You have earned it. Enjoyed. Fondly, Freda. And actually, I think retirement, I've never liked that word. When I retired, I called it protirement because that Carol went on, and I'm sure other people are going to speak about it, to do many, many more things to give to the community after she left the North Shore schools.
Oh. Thank you, Freda. Yes, my mom.
Microphone switched on.
Oh, I see.
What?
I got it. Is that it? Well, it's yeah. Mom, after she retired, she didn't like sitting around. in fact, she was always busy. One of the stories I tell in the obituary we published is that she was asked by a coach when she was a teenager to train as an Olympic swimmer. And she started doing that, but then she realized there was more to life than swimming all day, and said no, because there was so much to do. And after she retired, my sister and Fred have both mentioned her participation in union activities and her campaigning, going to Albany, and she became the president of the retired teachers chapter of the union, and she served in that capacity for more than 10 years. She was also president of the Friends of the Glen Cove Library, which she retired from at the age of 100. And we met last night, the new president, Carol, and I think Mom would be very happy to know that the Friends will be continuing under her leadership. And I know there are some other people from the Friends who are here today. Let's see. At this point, is there anyone, I'm going to open it up, and if anyone wishes to address us, you're welcome to do it. If anyone on the Zoom wishes to, you can either literally raise your hand or use the Zoom raise your hand button, and we'll call on you. Is there anyone in the audience here?
Hey, Rich, I have something to add until somebody else comes up.
Speak.
Yeah. So, this is on Fred is acknowledgement of my mother's styling.
Yes.
Right. And so I just have to go over here for a second to get something to show you. So how many days are there of school? 180 or something? School days, something like that, right? So my mother never wore the same outfit twice. And I think that that's true for the 22 years she was teaching. So if you multiply that, the outfit, so in going into her closets, which are many in the house, because once we moved out, the closets that were ours were taken over by her. And then my father built her 3 closets in the basement. So those are all filled with clothes. And so a task that is incomplete in emptying them, but I did go in and take multiple bags for Big Brother and to other thrift shops where a lot of her clothes came from, because my mother taught me how to shop in a thrift shop. She hadn't, not only did she have great styling, but she had an eye for things that were well made, that were great colors. So one of the things that I did do was that in her closet that was filled, I'm going to call it her sweater closet, because it was filled with sweaters. I have a friend up here in the area who I know through the farmer's market. Doreen is her name, and she has a business where she repurposes and upcycles, they call it, sweaters and things, and makes clothing and bags and hats and comforters and all this from. And so I got in touch with Doreen, and I said, I have a couple of bags of sweaters of my mother's, would you like them for your business? So I dropped them off. And then about 2 months later, and this was while I cleaned that out, I had Mom's blessing because she was still around, but she said, please just do something with all these things. And I gave them, I dropped them off to Doreen. And then about a month later, in the mail, Doreen sent me scarves. I'm going to show you. This is sort of like, this is quite long. I guess I'll put it on. Wait, there was more. There was all made from Mom's sweaters. All this, and then, oh, here, actually, I'm sitting on it. I put it on my chair. So these are her winter colors, right? And so Doreen just sent it to me and she goes, I know this will remind you of your mother. Thank you. I just wanted to share that. It's a little warm today to be wearing all this, but we'll put it all.
Okay, so thanks, Em. Oh, Betty Blankfein sent me some remarks. Did you want to deliver them or would you like me to read them? What do you prefer, Betty? Okay, she wants me to read them. All right, that means I have to find them, but hold on. I think they're available. Yeah. Just before I read those, I just want to read a note that I got from my cousin, Bob Rubin, and I know that his niece and nephew, Susanna and Sam, have been on the Zoom, and Bob Rubin sent a note, and it says low system resources. No, it says, dear Richard, Musa, and Emily, it was so good to finally get to know Aunt Carol. Bob is the son of my father's oldest brother. My father was one of four. And it was so good to, and he grew up in Pittsburgh, but moved to New York in, well, we'll say midlife. It was so good to finally get to know Aunt Carol and Uncle Mort after we moved to New York in 1987. Before then, I had only seen Mort maybe 2 or 3 times in the 50s when he traveled for work and had some time between planes in Pittsburgh. We enjoyed our visits with them during our New York years. And of course, it was also good to get to know you three. Her full and long life is an inspiration for us to enjoy as much as we can as we move forward. We wish you all and we wish you and your families all the best, Bob and Karen. And Betty, who was a colleague of my mother's, says, hold on, I'm gonna make it a little bigger for me. Just one moment. Betty writes, Carol and I were teachers at the Glenwood Landing School. She was a 3rd grade teacher and I was a resource room special ed teacher. Last November, while reflecting on the upcoming celebration of Thanksgiving, my thoughts turned to Learning Together, a volunteer and literacy program that I had written and is now being presented and thriving at the Gold Coast Library. That feeling of gratitude and the success of bringing tutors and adult community members together brought me to the origin of this success, Carol Rubin. One day, close to 10 years ago, Carol and a little girl holding hands walked into the Glen Cove Library. Carol saw me, walked over to the table where I was helping a young boy with his schoolwork and said, Betty, what are you doing here? With her arm outstretched, she then said, stay here, don't go away. I need to bring somebody out to meet you. And that is what she did. Out came Kathy Flynn, the director. She introduced Kathy to me and then went on to explain the library's plan to offer help with English to adult immigrants. And that did come about with Maria Fernando Pardo supporting me along the way. Now back to Thanksgiving 2024. I needed to make sure that Carol was aware of what she had started. And so I created a photo journal and brought it over to the Regency to be delivered to her. When Richard came to visit, they called me. Carol did not know what had become of what she started. Carol had a way of putting pieces of a puzzle together. I am so grateful that I had expressed my appreciation to her for having been responsible for the welcoming messages we give to our communities. And I hope that's, oh no, yes, and that's it. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Beth. You know, we just want to get rid of that.
Anybody raise their hands?
I don't know. Anyone here wish to say anything? Marcia.
Marcia, yeah.
This is Marcia Silverman, a council,
City Council.
a member of the Glen Cove City Council.
Thank you. You know, you hear a lot of the same themes from all different people and all different walks of life that have been part of Carol's life. Yeah, I figured I was too short to be behind it, but just like Carol, right? Too short. No, just right. We were the right height. So, you know, having this on my calendar for the last couple of months, I said, been thinking about what to say about Carol. And I think about the first time I met her. And I was first running for city council about 8 years ago. And a mutual friend said, my friend Carol Rubin wants to meet you. And a lot of people, you know, say, yeah, you know, I'm running for office. They want to get to know my platform, whatever. But I went in and I'm like, I don't know if she's going to grill me or be friendly. Like, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. I don't know. So I go in and I meet her. And instantly we had an amazing connection. And I think a couple of things, you know, growing up in a Jewish family, my grandmother had almost as many outfits as Carol. My entire family was in education, public education, and we instantly connected on all of these things. And you know, we heard earlier about her supporting somebody before they even had the strength to understand that they could do things. And here I am running the first time for office, and she's telling me, you know, Marcia, you should run for mayor. And I'm like, let me do city council first. And I would see her, you know, at the senior center around town. I would see her. She's like, Marcia, you should run for mayor. You should run for mayor. And we'd always chat, have great connections. And the thing that's really sad to me right now is that I did just announce that I'm running for mayor this year. And while she's not here, I still hear her voice saying that, as a few other people from the senior center do. I hear her voice saying it, and I know that she's looking down and helping guide me with my parents and grandparents who, you know, she was kind of a surrogate to me over the last several years when my parents and grandparents have all been long gone. And having that in my life was such a gift. And I think the reason that we're all here today is Carol was a gift to each one of us and really touched so many people. And that's how I will remember her. And I think a lot of us will, that we were all lucky to have that gift. And I'm going to treasure it for as long as I can remember. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yeah. Yeah.
I can do it.
What do we do?
Yeah, Carol, go ahead and unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, perfectly. This is
Great. So picking up where Marcia left off on her first memory, I'm going to just share really my last memory of your mom. We had
Carol, would you just introduce yourself to
Oh,
people?
I'm so sorry. Sure. My name is Carol Waldman, and I had spent the last almost 30 years at the senior center, for the last almost 20 as the director. And I've known Carol the entire time, first as a program coordinator where I took her on many trips, and then as the director, and we shared some pretty incredible moments together. What a remarkable woman. But I wanted to share the last memory I had with her, because we were doing a program. I don't know if anyone from if AJ is there, or Lisa, anyone from Age Friendly, but we had a program where we would walk with the doc, and Carol walked with us. First, the doctor would give a few minutes worth of a lecture on a particular health topic. Carol always had questions, because she knew, even at 103, that there was still so much to learn. And then she would also offer insights after the lecture was over. And then eventually we would walk, whether it was at Garvey's Point or the Boys and Girls Club, together for a while. And at Garvey's, mostly it was hard for her toward the end to walk the length of it. So we basically just sat on the bench some of the time and just looked out at the harbor and talked about her love of water and her love of family and life. But then at the Boys and Girls Club, she and I would often do laps together. And she could last up to 3 laps around the whole Boys and Girls Club gym. And in each of those laps, believe it or not, she spoke mostly about her children, and not about necessarily, just what their careers had turned out to be, or, what it was like to raise families for them and how fabulous their families were, but mostly just talked about who her children were and how proud she was of them and how much it meant to her that they had become the incredible women and men that they had become. I'm thinking today that here we were, she and I, just celebrating the 3 of you. And now today, the 3 of you are celebrating her. And this celebration really is about what it means to love deeply. And I think the one thing that I would certainly say that she taught us, not just at the senior center, but I think in our whole community and hopefully for the whole family, is that nothing is more important than loving deeply in your life. And if you're doing that, then you're living life fully. And I think that's the real lesson that she gave me. So you're right, Marcia, there's a lot of lessons from Carol, but that's probably the one I'll carry with me forever.
Thank
I'm not sure how to change the view on this.
Here, I'll do it.
Gallery?
Yeah, gallery view,
Okay.
yeah. June might win.
Yeah, but let me
Yeah, go ahead, speak.
let me speak just a few minutes. I didn't prepare any remarks today, and I was kind of worried about what I might say. But my girlfriend said, just talk about what it was that your mother gave you, what she did for you, how she helped you. And I think that there were 2 things that were really important in my life. One was the love of water. Okay. I have been fortunate enough to live in a place where I can go scuba diving basically every day if I wanted to, in a little island in the Indian Ocean called Mauritius. And I've done 1,400 scuba dives, so it's sort of like hard to describe which is a hobby, the work of the and the other thing that I think was really important as well is the idea that I am capable of really whatever it is that I want to do. And not that I am superior to anyone else in that endeavor, but that if I decide that I want to do something, that I can do it. And she gave that example came directly to me when she decided she wanted to be a school teacher and went back to graduate school, despite the fact that she had, well, Richard was well into his teen years, but she had two younger children, and she figured out how to placate us by actually absenting herself for night classes, so that we had the whole house to ourselves, and we were served TV dinners, which we thought was the coolest thing. You know, they have the little separations, and when Mom served us, it was all flopped on the same plate.
That's right. Well,
Yeah.
yes.
So the reason that was important to me is that I've had a lot of twists and turns in my life, as I think everyone has, but I was never confronted with a situation where I didn't think that I was able to do what was ahead of me. And I mean, you know, everything, my work, my hobbies, my avocations, and so forth. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up is that she gave, or just demonstrated to me, and I don't know whether it was hereditary or not, is an enthusiasm for everything. If you walked down that corridor in the garden, my mom would find something to say, isn't that gorgeous? Isn't that interesting? And that is, I think, a gift that I feel as though I want to give that gift to other people, but the few times that I've had a chance to train or teach or so forth, I've tried to do that. But just in my own life, I feel as though it's almost a responsibility I have to be interested in everything that comes up. There's nothing that will bore me. I'll always try to find something worthwhile. The other thing that I wanted to say is that I was raised by an incredible duo. Mort Rubin and Carol were a team that brought up three wonderful children and have served as grandparents for others. And I don't know how to explain it, but you know, I hear from colleagues and friends, and you know, read in the newspaper about people who have had horrible childhoods and abusive parents and all of that stuff. And I just don't relate to it because my childhood was so wonderful. When I was 5 years old, my mother went to bat for me because I wanted to ride my bicycle to school. And the rule was that you had to be 6 years old or in first grade to ride. Okay. And she went to bat for me and got me the permission to ride my bicycle to school. And when I was in kindergarten, I was the only kindergartner there who was riding his bike. So that was the kind of thing that my parents really backed us up in whatever we wanted to do. So anyway, thanks, Mom. I think about something that she's told me every single day of my life, and among which is that you have to be a member of the Clean Plate Club. So I still have this feeling when I leave food on the plate that I'm being a bad boy. Anyway, what I would like to do is turn it over to my grandniece, June, who is the son of Maggie and Jamal. Okay, please. What did I say? When I say son, I mean daughter.
Yeah. Right. Right. I always knew her as Grimy Carol. Well, right. I've known her my entire life, but like, right. But that compared to her life, very short amount of time. I'm very recently, but in the small amount of time I did get to spend with her, she was always just such a wonderful person. Oh, always brought something fun to every conversation. And although Bill, on what my mom said, her cooking was questionable. Remember, fine, right, right. There was the black ketchup, and then later, we found Gruff Richard fed me ketchup that had been in our fridge since 2018. This was in 2023. So anything that goes into her fridge stays there for at least another decade. And but yeah, she was just such a wonderful person, and I don't really have much else to say. Thank you.
Well, you know, I have to say that the turkey meatloaf was mom's best dish. Harold, what are you telling me? Oh, yes.
Yeah, please.
Harold is my second cousin once removed. So, yeah, he's the son of Marilyn, my second cousin, whom I've known since I was born. And I like to say that Harold's
Twice from.
no. Oh, no. Second cousin once removed. I got it right.
There'll be a colloquy afterwards.
Yes, you'll have a test, but Harold's mother is I realized recently is the person who knew Carol, person yet alive who has known Carol Rubin the longest. And so Harold, I'll turn it over to you.
Is the camera okay?
Just wanted to, as we're here for the celebration, just say my memories of Carol. Just to build on what everybody said earlier, heard so much about her love of the water. I just remember her love to go down to the pier, going there. And what always was remarkable to me was her encyclopedic knowledge of just life, of Glen Cove, and of the family. You mentioned a relative. She knew the whole story behind it.
Yeah.
She was a walking ancestry.com. When any genealogy or ancestry, Carol was the one, just give a name. She knew the story, but it was also, I heard, to build on like Eric mentioned, that when not only when to walk did she find something interesting, but if she pointed something out, you walked in a garden or she walked in a place, she knew the story behind it. So I was very much impressed with her encyclopedic knowledge of just life, her love of travel, her love of art, her love of life. And that's the memory that I think we all need to cherish, was just her broad knowledge of just life, her love for her family, and for her enthusiasm for everyone in her quest for knowledge, quest to learn, and she was quite a remarkable woman. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You know,
Would you like to speak? Yeah, oh, yes.
yeah, Gabe, I just want to make a quick follow-up to what Harold said, is that mom had this ability, and those of you who are in the room or on Zoom who knew her well, if she knew you, she knew who you were married to, who you were divorced from, who your relatives were, who your parents were. She had this network of relationships in her head, and she would always remind me, oh, yes. And I have, now that I'm getting on and I have friends who have grandchildren, and I have trouble remembering who has how many grandchildren and what their genders are and how old they are. She had that memory down. So yeah, Gately, I'll turn it over to you.
Gately, Stevenson, Matthews, Jim and I are here and certainly honored to be here with your family today. I certainly knew Carol from many different aspects of Glen Cove, but where it began for me, Jim and I moved here in 2007. I was involved in the archive room because I wanted to learn the history. I like to know where I live and be a part of it. And we also became very involved in the Presbyterian Church. And it was through Pastor Betsy, then, who, as she got to know me, she kept saying, you need to know Carol. I need you to know Carol. And it was thanks to Betsy Simpson that she arranged to have, I don't remember food involved, quite frankly. I don't know whether we had tea or coffee but I remember when I first met Carol. And again, even in her own home, I know Jim and I, when we're at home, we're kind of pretty casual, but she was dressed to the nines, dressed to the nines. And what I was so struck by Carol was that she found, as you said, found interest in everything. And what happened as she aged, she moved slower. She had to be a little more deliberate in how she gestured and such, but the twinkle in her eye and that interest in everyone else and everyone around her continued. And for me, being part of Glen Cove and knowing Carol's impact on this community and having been invited to be a part of that, I will cherish, and Jim and I will cherish forever. And we are just so appreciative to be here today. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I can't quite see the Zoom. Anybody else on Zoom wish to say anything? Emily?
It was just a.
It is
From him.
No, but Emily Ravitch.
Yeah, I wanted to say something as a young teacher, well, younger teacher anyway. Carol was very inspiring. Hi, I'm Emily Ravish, daughter of dear friends of Richard's, and New York resident, and I'm lucky enough that I happen to share a birthday with Carol, and so does my mother, and that was a whole thing that got the idea of us meeting started. And I was lucky enough in the last years of her life to, after knowing Richard since I was 2 years old or something like it, finally meet his mother, who was amazing and sharp as a tack to the end. And while I only met her a few times, those times that I met her were just enthralling. She was a wonderful conversationalist. She, of course, had a billion stories because, of course, she would. And she was kind enough to share her students' books of poetry that she had published, and yes, that had won numerous awards with me. And she asked me if I knew of Kenneth Koch. And I said, yes. Yeah. So Kenneth Koch, for those of you who don't know, was both an educator and a poet. And he wrote books on how to write poetry with children. And I'm lucky enough that my mother exposed me early to Kenneth Koch. And to this day, my favorite poem is a Kenneth Koch poem. So she and I had a lot to talk about, especially when it came to teaching and poetry. And it was such a pleasure to know her, and I hope to bring some of what she did into my teaching with very, very young children, if I can.
when I can. That's what I want to say.
Thanks, Emily. Hold on, I have to change the
Just
view.
have to say, that you share her birthday, and your mom does too, but so does our cousin Barb. So November 8th, it's got to be like some kind of,
Auspicious day.
Auspicious day. I have
Especially
two friends, and both of their mothers' birthdays are November 8th. So, welcome to the club.
I guess I've been here a while, but thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Yeah.
I realize this isn't much, but I remember her from Miss Gavet's French class back in the fall of 1983 at Glen Cove Adult Education. She told me about when on the school she teaches, and eventually I didn't realize she had lived near me because during the last few sessions, her and her husband took me home after class was over.
Okay, we have someone else from the audience coming up.
Stephanie. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Curtaro. I really just met Carol going to the senior center in the exercise class, and this remarkable woman would come in twice a week and exercise with the YMCA, and everyone say, look at this woman, she's over 90 and she comes all the time, and just so inspiring, really wonderful. And then we would sit and eat lunch together, and she told me all about her children and what this one is doing, and this one is writing a book, and that one is moving upstate, and just she was wonderful, and I'm really pleased I got to know her in that short time. Yeah, thanks.
Ruth? Okay, we have my mother's friend Ruth from the senior center, who will be joining us in a moment, but she has to navigate the chairs in the room, so she'll be here. Come around this way, Ruth.
My name is Ruth Yan. I know Carol over 20 years. When I moved to Glen Cove, first time I went to the Glen Cove Library because I like classical music, and it was very, very nice classical program. And then Carol come over, said, I'm the president of the Friends of Library. And since then, I always go to every single either Saturday or Sunday concert because she always have very nice classic. Then we start discussing about opera, symphony, everything like that. And when she joined the senior center, we went on a trip to a winery trip. When they all wine tasting, because I cannot drink it, she cannot drink. So we sat down on a bench, and she talked about her children, about Emily. Oh, she just finished a book. And then she said, oh, she's writing second book. And then she said, oh, she published her second book. And she's writing her third book. And she talked about Richard. We took a French class in the senior center. And, she asked me, why are you taking French? I said, I like foreign languages. I said, why are you taking French? She said, because my son speaks fluently French. So I want to learn to speak French. And just like Stephanie said, she doing exercise every Monday and Thursday. She liked to sit in front. And the exercise class, usually many people come very early. They try to occupy certain seats. And she wants to sit in front. So I make sure I go down very early to arrange the ball and wait to to save her seat in the front row. Yeah. And we sit in the same table in the dining, senior center dining table. And we always talk about this and that. I talk with her about classical music. And September 2024, she told me, Ruth, you know what? I have a decision. I'm going to move to Regency. But she said, but I'm still going to the walk with them because we walk with the dog every third Thursday. Yeah, she said, I'm going to still walk with the dog. But then when she moved to Regency, she never did. And that's the last time I saw her. I really, really miss her. We were very good friends for over 20 years.
Ruth, I just want you to know that my mother acknowledged you, and she often mentioned because we would, just want to mention something about my mom's relationship to technology. You heard her telling the story about the Zenith radio and the large piece of furniture that they had in her house. She, at the time she was born, it was either that year or the year before that broadcast radio had just begun. And that when my father died 20 years ago, that was the first, and my brother, as he told you, lives 10,000 miles away on the island of Mauritius. The way I communicated with him was the very first Skype call that we had was that night. And during the pandemic, on March 11th, 2021, I had a ticket, 2020, I had a ticket to New York. And I couldn't fly because it was suddenly announced it was dangerous for seniors to drive. And I said, well, Mom, it'll be a few months. And it was 6 months before I could see her again. But right after that, we started a family Zoom session, which we conducted every week. Most of the time, all of us were available. The children and my daughter and a grandchild were on that Zoom, and that really helped, I think, keep Mom going in that isolation of that time. And one of the things that, this is a long way of coming around to my remark about Ruth, is that she frequently mentioned, oh, when I go to the senior center, there's this woman who always sets up a chair for me. Okay, let's see. Anyone, I'm looking on Zoom to see if anyone wishes to say anything. Bobby Lamada in the room does, so I'll let you.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. My name's Bobby Lamada, and I know Carol from the Friends of the Library, but most importantly from our book club. But let me just tell you one funny little story. When I first met her, it was sort of rocky. I was in the book club, and I hadn't been there very long, and she didn't like the fact that I was always butting in and talking, and she said, raise your hand, and I said, raise my hand. Anyway, I'm at the hospital having surgery. I come out of the operating room, and Carol was a volunteer at the hospital, and she's following along with the gurney. Oh dear, how are you? And, she said, but I must tell you, when you're in the book club, you're a little too enthusiastic, and you have to learn to control yourself. So the next day I called up Helen Green. I said, I'm quitting the book club. So she said, no, you can't. So I don't know how it happened, but eventually Carol and I bonded over books and I love the water. And she got me to join the Friends of the Library. And after that, we became like best friends. When she called me almost every night, Bobby, put on Rachel Maddow. Bobby, you got to watch Rachel. We got to do something about this Trump. We really do. And it's funny, even up until the end, I went to go see her in October at the Regency. And I was at the door, and her aide said, "Well, she's sleeping." She goes, "No, Bobby, come in." So then I went in, I sat with her, and she still was political. "Bobby, we have to do something. We can't let him get in." And then, she started also saying how she was sorry she hadn't moved there sooner. She loved, because I said, "This is gorgeous here. I love it." "Oh, you're right by the movies and you can walk to restaurants." She said, "I know, I wish, I'm starting to get a little bit older." So, so anyway, every time she called me, my husband would see the number, 2021's calling. That was Carol's end of her phone number. And I miss her so much. I mean, we really got to love each other. She always called me if she needed a ride and even in the end, we were still talking about books, the book club. And there's nothing more I could say. It's just, I really miss her. Anyway, thanks.
Bobby, I'm gonna say something that my mother said, and I hope you're not offended. Okay? Yeah. She always said, "Oh, Bobby," and her mother, she says, "They look like blonde floozies, but they're really smart." But my brother took Mom. She had her 103rd birthday, November 8th, which, as people on the Zoom have pointed out, was the birthday of my cousin Barbara, my friend Elaine, and her daughter Emily. But on the week after, my brother took Mom to planting fields in a wheelchair. She looked at all the flowers and pointed them out. And 3 weeks before she died, I took her to the Nassau County Art Museum, and she wanted. And after we saw the first floor, it was a beautiful exhibit. That's a wonderful museum. It was all on the color red. She looked at every artifact, every sculpture, every painting, and commented about it, told me about the artists, some of whom I didn't know, but she knew about them. And I said, "Are you done?" "No, let's go up to the second floor." And that was 3 weeks before she died. Okay, anyone else? Because, okay, Susan. Susan was my mom's office manager.
Hi, everybody. I don't know how I'm going to follow up Bobby, but I'll try. My name is Susan McCormick. I work for the North Shore School Teachers Union, and I met your lovely mom, I guess, close to 20 years ago, shortly after your dad died. And she had come up to me. I had been in the office, and she saw me working on the computer, and she goes, "Hey, do you know anybody that knows anything about computers?" I said, "Well, I know some things about computers." And she said, "Well, can you come over and help me? My husband did some things on the computer." And little did I know that simple question would turn into a 20-year-long, beautiful friendship. I can reiterate all the things everybody has said here about what an amazing human being she was. But, it's looking at the two of us, we're 50 years apart, and you would never believe that two people that grew up in very different generations could form such a close and beautiful friendship. But she was one of my dearest friends, and that's coming from the bottom of my heart. And I'll miss her very dearly. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, okay. My friend Jane Schreier, whom I've known since seventh grade, is coming up. I do want to say that when Dad died, I was helping Mom remotely on the computer, and it got to be a task. And I said, "Mom, can't you find someone locally?" And that's when she spoke to Susan, and she said that after that, Susan, that you started having other clients as well, and that started a whole side business for you.
Yeah, she helped me launch my business. She gave me the confidence to start a business. And I did that for about 18 years. Yeah.
Yeah, James, come on.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Well, I'm here to just share a little bit of anecdotal information, I guess. I've had a sort of strange connection with the Rubin family. Richard remembers us meeting in seventh grade. I know we were in the same second grade class in Queens, but we don't remember each other, although we both had the same best friend. So I don't quite understand how that happened. And I don't remember actually having met Carol at that time. But years later, when we were living in Glen Cove, and I was a counselor at the YMCA, and lo and behold, one of my campers was Emily, who she probably doesn't remember. But anyway, she was probably, I don't know, 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. Did I beat you up or something?
It was always a little traumatic, but you helped smooth over the edges.
But anyway, so I think that's the first time I met Carol, just, in passing, as she was there, I don't know, see Emily, or Emily was sick or something, but I know I met her at the Y. And then as the years went on, I knew her because Richard and I were close friends throughout, from seventh grade and then throughout high school, and would continue to be close friends. And what I remember having happened with her was that we went one day to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And Richard, I was living in Massachusetts at the time, and Richard was telling me he was coming in, and, Carol and I and he could go to the museum. Before that, I guess I have to step back a little bit. I was an attorney in New York for about 25 years. And during that time, I got to know Carol better, and I ended up being her attorney. And as her attorney, I subsequently got to know her as a person and became friends with her and would have dinner with her even when Richard was not in town or whatnot. And so we did have our own relationship, which was wonderful. And but anyway, so I forgot where I was going. So we went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I don't remember, Richard, do you have any idea how she was quite old at that point? Was she 90-ish?
When we went to the Met,
Yeah.
but she was in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you can all tell I'm not terribly thin and fit, but anyway, Carol went careening through the museum and her encyclopedic knowledge of all pieces of art, and I'm not terribly informed. And so I was trailing after her, trying to catch up rapidly. She would go through from one room to another and explain the art to me. And it was a great experience. But anyway, that was my one of my memories of Carol. And I think the last time that I saw her, Richard brought her up to visit a friend who had was in a retirement community, nursing home, whatever, up in the Berkshires. And I happened to live near there. And so he invited me to join them all for lunch. And so we had a lovely time, and she was great. And I know, I spoke with her, and saw her on her birthday on Zoom. And so I always felt like she was a presence in my life, and I really loved her. She was just such a warm and wonderful person, and so bright and so willing to share her knowledge and not make me feel stupid because I didn't know anything about whatever it was that she was talking about, particularly when it came to art. So anyway, that's my memory about Carol.
Okay. Before we, if there is someone else, you know, the people here are all invited to the house afterwards for some really good food. So I hope you are able to make it. The people on Zoom, you'll just have to imagine it vicariously. But if you have something to contribute and you haven't yet, to please do. If not, I want to talk about, well, first of all, I want to acknowledge that I really appreciate your everyone who has shown up. And I mean, I realize other people have lost friends and relatives during the past year. Hey, guys. Hey. Sorry. I did want to acknowledge, I mean, we're glad that you were able to take the time to come, able to take the. Yeah, you can hear me. I don't think the mic is on. Oh,
It's on, but it's, all right.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know other people have I've lost friends and relatives over the past year. And so that you would, I know, Bobby, you had a cousin who died recently. And I know that this, and I think it was Wendy, you told me that your mother died just a few weeks before my mom did. And so, I mean, we're really grateful that you took the time to celebrate our mother's life. And of course, we hear about people dying difficult and awful in awful ways. And people who don't have time to celebrate because of the either war conditions or poverty, suffering. So it's really a privilege, not only that Mom lived so long and well up to the end, but that we're able to take the time to honor her in this way and to celebrate that life. I want to talk about, there are a few people who aren't here. My friend Thomas Peccatella, over the past 4 or 5 years since the pandemic, he would meet me and Mom. We would go into the city. Mom and I would take the train. Thomas lives in Denville, New Jersey, and we would meet. And we would often figure out what matinee we were going to see while talking on the train, and sometimes by walking up to the box office. Thomas and I had become experts in getting inexpensive tickets to Broadway shows, and one where we had been discussing on the train what to see. And he called us on the train. He had gotten to Times Square before us, and he said, I've got $40 tickets to Glenda Jackson and King Lear. And Mom said afterwards it was one of the best things she'd ever seen. But we saw a lot of good plays with Tom. I just wanted to acknowledge him and his Thomas grew up in India, and his mother met my mother twice, and his mother, who was, I believe, about 14 years younger than my mother, died before she did. Okay. Oh, now there's someone else who can't be here, and that's because she works all the time, and that's Janine Demana. Who is the proprietor of originally the Page One restaurant, and then later The View, which, like this place, had a wonderful view of Long Island Sound. And unfortunately, she had to give up that location a little over a year ago, a year and a half well, it was February of 2024. And it took her 6 or 7 months to reopen at a new location. And my mother kept saying it was Glen Head, and I kept saying, isn't that Seacliff? My mother was right, because it's on the east side of Glen Cove Avenue, which is Glen Head. The right side, the west side is Seacliff. But and since Janine reopened, Mom has been to that restaurant. And it's in September, just before she moved to the Regency. She was there once, and then after she moved to the Regency, she was at the restaurant 3 times, including the Saturday before she died. And I just wonder if I can find something on the screen here. Hold on, I've got to switch my glasses. I just want to play you a brief discussion, because Janine's restaurant, first page 1, and then the view, hosted her 90th birthday, her 95th, and she held a 98th. She said, just in case I don't make 100, but she did make 100. So Janine held the 100th. So hold on, I have to, wait a minute. Zoom can't minimize because I'm recording. Oh, I see. I'm going to share the screen. Share. I'm getting some noise. Please check make sure you're muted if you're remote.
All right, Carl.
Okay. One moment, and I'm going to find this. I know where it is. Okay. Wait a minute. Bear with me 1 second. I just lost my screen. Okay. So it's 2016. Okay. I think this is it. I think I've got it. No.
For business and cooking from the heart.
Right.
And I think today she cooked from the heart.
It does. It's a different. For me, it's a lot of people get into this percentage. You work with them and it's a paycheck.
Yeah.
And you get the people who do it for passion, and especially when they do it for somebody who's so dear to them, it adds more to. And it does make, for me, it does make a difference. I can tell when my food is not happy.
Anyway, that was a brief Janine herself talking, and that was during Mom's 95th birthday celebration. Okay.
Maybe it was June. Oh, spoke earlier. That was.
Yeah, that was my granddaughter June. All right. If no one else has anything to offer, we are going to thank you so much.
Richard, I have something.
Oh, okay. No.
I didn't realize that we had something in common, which was turkey meatloaf, because I love to make that. And your mother, sticks in your mind. She's a feeling. That's what I get. She's a feeling like music. When you were with her, you were in her schoolroom, receiving an education, and in the traditions of her time. I miss her, and there are a couple oddities that happened to me with her. Of course, we know she's very progressive, but I couldn't bring a girlfriend out to Long Island, to the house, I wasn't married to Charlene at the time, and then she also didn't approve of Arlene's political views. She says, "Why do you want to have a girlfriend like that?" You know, so her politics and some kind of a moral, you know, fiber was there, you know, which I thought was a little off type, you know. But yeah, I miss her, and like I say, it's a feeling, you know. That's it.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah. If there's no, oh, okay. All right. But I just wanted to in sort of wrapping this up, I really would like to have a round of appreciation for the Webb Institute for letting us hold our. And just so that you're aware, they normally don't host things like this, but they were very kind in letting us do that. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah. Thanks. In fact, the reason we were able to have it, is this on? Yeah, the reason we were able to have this here is 20 years ago, Mom had been here for some event, and she was looking for a place to have the memorial for our father, and she appealed to the then president, Kiss, at the time, and he said, "Oh, your appeal is so heartfelt. I have to do it." And when I called after Mom died, the secretary, Gal Marie, says, "Oh, we never do that." And so I said, "Well, you did once." And I sent the president, Mark, forget his last name. It's a long Italian name, I'm sorry. But I sent him an email with pictures of us at the event, and he said, "Oh, okay." As long as we had to switch the date because it wasn't available, but I just want to thank the people who've come in on Zoom. In addition to my sister, there are my cousins, Sam Lipside and Susanna. They're my second cousins, but my first cousins, Frank and Barbara, who I couldn't be here, but we're really glad to see you. My first wife and good friend, Alma Richardson, is and the mother of Maggie is on the screen, and our what?
Sam, did you want to say something?
I guess not. Frank is
Frank?
no.
Waving, but he said his name.
No, it's
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And college friends and friends ever since of Alma and me, Bill and Elaine Ravitch, and their daughter Emily, who spoke, and Andre, my friend Andre Laszlo, who has was a friend. I knew him as an acquaintance in college, but we became friends after he moved to St. Louis in around 1985, 86. Hi, Andre.
Richard, Andre's had his hand up for a little while. Should we check in whether he wants to say anything?
Yeah, Andre, do you wish to speak?
Oh, Andre. Yeah.
Yeah, that's his partner, Phyllis, who is with him. I see you waving. Phyllis, are you having trouble?
There we go.
Can I
there
say
you go.
something?
Yes, please do, Andre. as Richard mentioned, we knew each other at the University of Chicago, and then we reconnected in St. Louis. And one of my big issues in my life is that I lost 90% of my family in the Holocaust. I never really had a family. And then Carol was coming to St. Louis for Thanksgiving, and I got to meet her then. And then I remember her heart because she really made me feel welcome. And she really made me feel as I was part of the Rubin family. And I really appreciated her for that. And I always remember her kind heart and always making me feel really welcome at those Thanksgiving dinners. Okay. Thank you, Andre. And Ronnie Heller, thank you for being with us on Zoom, and Carol and anyone else I haven't acknowledged. But anyway, you are, of course, those of you who are here in the room, please join us very soon at the house. We've got really some fine food from Janine's, and we hope to carry on the conversation there. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you, Richard.
All right, thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. All the best. Much love.
And anyone who needs to is welcome to drive up to the circle if you need assistance rather than walk to the parking lot. Oh, 31.
We live?
Yeah.
Shall we leave?
Okay.
You sure?
Okay, why don't we wait until they leave?
Are we gonna take this apart or?